Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. So a lot of you are wondering how people lost their minds over Beanie Babies back in the 1990s. What you have to understand is that Beanie Babies were the perfect storm. It was a product that came out that people could speculate on, and at that same time, eBay had just launched. So as a result, eBay pretty much magnified the speculative boom of Beanie Babies literally by 100 times. So there's a lot of people out there that keep asking me to do a video or several videos on Beanie Babies. So I am going to do this particular video just to tell you guys how this happened and how it could easily happen again, especially in the age of mass-produced scarcity. A lot of these companies coming to the market, releasing these products, releasing items in limited collector edition quantities and the like, and selling them for a premium on the secondary market at present time. If you look at Funko Pops are Beanie Babies 2.0. It's the same theory, it's the same idea, and I've done videos on this in the past. I'm not going to repeat myself, but just note that if you are somebody who's investing in Funko Pops, understand just because it's attached to a popular pop culture license like Star Wars or Marvel Comics or DC Comics or Doctor Who or whatever license it's attached to, doesn't mean that that item is going to always have value in a collecting following. Understand that, guys. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. If you go to your local Walmart, if you go to your Target store, you're going to find items in the bargain bin that have the coveted Star Wars licensee attached to them. It didn't save them from hitting the bargain bin, and it sure as hell doesn't mean that you should buy those items for an investment or for resale later. If you don't believe me, go back and study what happened with Power of the Force 2 vintage Star Wars toys that were released in the 1990s. Go back and look what happened with Hasbro's handling of Episode 1 Star Wars toys from 1999. Those markets pretty much crashed. There's few items in those markets that are valuable and coveted as collectibles today. Just because something has Star Wars on it, or Doctor Who, or whatever franchise you are coveting, does not mean that market is safe from going to zero or dropping exponentially in value. Funko Pop collectors are under the same mindset that Beanie Baby collectors were back in the 1990s. The only difference is, guys, the trade is less fragmented today than it was back in the 1990s. Now, I want to prove this point to you. So I went online, and there's a couple of articles that I keep bookmarked for segments that I want to do on these collecting categories. And the one article that I do have bookmarked, I'm going to put in the description below because it is a great article worth reading. This was published back in February of 2015. So pretty much, this is almost a 6-year-old article. It's titled Plush Life, and it's called Why Did People Lose Their Minds Over Beanie Babies? And it premiered on Slate.com. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article to you, but I do want to read at least 2 or 3 paragraphs of this and then talk about a book that you should be reading, the book I actually used for the thumbnail of this video, on the topic of Beanie Babies. Because one thing, guys, I'm going to teach you something really quick here. If you want to learn the antiques and collectibles trade, if you want to learn economics, if you want to learn finance, if you want to learn market manipulation, you need to study markets like this. So anytime I recommend a book on this particular collecting category that went from boom to bust, you should want to go out and read it if you have an interest in learning this material. Again, I get no kickbacks. I don't even know this author. I don't even know the author of this particular piece. I am going to state his name, though, because I want to make sure that he gets credit. That's why I'm also going to link the article in the description below. But I just want you guys to know, if you want to learn about these markets, take the time to read this stuff. Be careful what information you absorb. There's a lot of bad information out there. But just know, if you want to learn about Beanie Babies, you got to take the time to read some of these books because they provide a really inside look at the antiques and collectibles trade, how to manipulate markets. Also, economics and finance are at play. So just listen to this. And again, this comes from this article called Plush Life, and the author was Mark Joseph Stern. I want to give him a lot of credit for writing this excellent piece. Again, his name is Mark Joseph Stern, and this appeared on Slate back in February of 2015. So let me read you these 3 paragraphs. From this distance, it is easy to laugh at Beanie Baby fever, to mock it as just another pointless fad in a chintzy, hollow decade. But in the later part of the 1990s, Beanie Babies were so much more than a fad. They were a mania, an obsession that endured not just gullible children, but also otherwise reasonable adults who lost all sense of perspective over these plush playthings. People sold and bought some rare Beanie Babies for $5,000 each and expected others to skyrocket in value within a decade. Collectors were careful to keep each toy's tag attached and protected by a plastic sheet. Beanie Babies' worth was said to fall by 50% once the tag was removed. Looking back, it's clear that the Beanie Baby craze was an economic bubble, fooled by frenzied speculation and blatantly baseless optimism. Bubbles are quite common, but bubbles over toys are not. Why did America lose its mind over stuffed animals? Zach Bissonette's new book, The Great Beanie Baby Bubble. I'm going to stop there for a second, guys, because I highly recommend you get this book. Again, it's by Zach Bissonette, and it's called The Great Beanie Baby Bubble. And it does an excellent job, reading from the article now, of explaining the basic economic factors behind Beanie Baby's success. Ty Warner, the mastermind behind the toys, side note, he also manipulated the market for his own advantage, had a remarkable talent for manipulating supply and demand. He's also a borderline recluse and a profoundly troubled man, among other things. Warner repeatedly dated the same women as his father at the same time and became a plastic surgery addict. First, Warner understuffed his toys so that they were flexible and looked real, in his words. Second, he only sold small batches of each new Beanie Baby to independent businesses, refusing to supply large quantities to big box retailers and fixing the price of each toy at $5. Third, Warner retired every Beanie Baby after a fairly short amount of time, introducing a new toy in its stead. The strategy created a near hysteria each time a Beanie Baby was released, sending fans rushing out to local stores to buy the new toy before supplies disappeared forever. Are you guys seeing how easy it is, if you know what you're doing, to manipulate these markets? Anybody with an education of economics and finance who has enough money, who is financially established, and knows the antiques and collectibles trade can do this, guys. I'm sorry to disappoint some of you that want to believe that some of these collecting categories are going to last indefinitely, or markets only go up exponentially. I've said this before. In my opinion, if we want to talk about great video games, the person that bought that game back before WATA came on the scene, and they may have paid only several $1,000s, and they got that game graded, and they're now selling that game on the open market through Heritage or Certified Link, and that game gets a bid of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. They're the real geniuses in video game investing. Not the people that are coming to me now that some of these games are selling for $50,000 and asking the question, well, Sean, if I buy that game for $50,000, is it going to go to $100,000? Can you help me invest in that market? Again, guys, a lot of these pop culture collectibles that you guys are all buying into are not created to invest over the long term. Some are. Don't get me wrong. I've said this before. I believe Reserve List Magic the Gathering cards, Pokemon cards, even certain video games, they're going to go on to become established collecting categories. And as a result, some of those markets are going to grab a foothold in the trade. But when they do, a lot of the items that are coveted right now may not be at that particular time. Markets change. The only constant in the antiques and collectibles trade is change. You must understand that. It is the only constant variable. I know that's an oxymoron, but it is the only constant variable that is fundamentally proven in the greater antiques and collectibles trade is change. Looking back at the Beanie Baby bubble, there were excellent critiques of that era, and I want to give a lot of credit to Harry Rinker. Harry Rinker came out right in the beginning and said this is a speculative bubble that is going to end badly, and believe it or not, a lot of people out there laughed at him. They actually laughed at somebody as credible as Harry Rinker, and he was proven right. The market lasted for 6 years. After it completely dissipated, a lot of people were left hurting. In fact, there is a video also that I'm going to link in this description that you can watch on YouTube about a person that spent $100,000 on Beanie Babies and lost their proverbial ass. Now, if you're wondering, I made a lot of money during the Beanie Baby frenzy because I saw it for what it was. I was on the side of people like Harry Rinker, Terry Covell, Wayne Jordan, experts in the trade who were commenting about this frenzy at the time, stating that it was completely ridiculous. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope this analysis helped answer the question how people got obsessed with these little stuffed toys. If you need me to do expanded videos on this, I gladly will. I can go in further detail. I can show you what life was like back in the 1990s and tell you why America and the industrialized world got obsessed with these things. Because prior to the 1990s, prior to 1995 specifically, the antiques and collectibles trade operated fundamentally different. It was more fragmented because there was no online presence. You guys, especially you younger guys out there, you have no idea how lucky you have it today, where you can log on to Morphy's auction, Hake's auction, Heritage, and you can see the value of these items in real time. Back in the day, we did not have that luxury, and you don't realize how much valuable that information is. And a lot of you out there don't use it to your advantage. And that's going to be the subject of an upcoming video. But that video is still several months off. Wink, wink. Have a good night, guys, and thanks for watching.